Hey friends, welcome back to the Big Talk Podcast. I'm your host, Tricia Brouk, founder of the Big Talk Academy, award-winning director, producer, and author, and this is episode 577. For today's conversation, I am joined by the amazing and brilliant and funny Dr. Jill Bolte Taylor. Dr. Jill is a Harvard-trained and published neuroscientist. In 1996, she experienced a severe hemorrhage in the left hemisphere of her brain, causing her to lose the ability to walk, talk, read, write, or recall any of her life. Her memoir, My Stroke of Insight, documenting her experience with stroke and 8-year recovery, spent 63 weeks on the New York Times nonfiction bestseller list. Dr. Jill is a dynamic teacher and speaker who loves educating people about the beauty of the human brain. She focuses on how we can activate the power of our neuroplasticity to not only recover from neurological trauma, but also to live a more flexible, resilient, and satisfying life. In 2008, her TED Talk went viral. That same year, she was chosen as one of Time Magazine's 100 most influential people in the world and was the premier guest on Oprah Winfrey's Soul Series webcast. Her new book, Whole Brain Living, The Anatomy of Choice and the Four Characters That Drive Our Life, is a #1 release on Amazon in categories ranging from neuroscience to nervous system disease and stroke. All right, everybody, let's do this. Dr. Jill, I am so excited to welcome you to the Big Talk podcast today. Thank you so much for being here.
I'm very excited to be with you. Thank you.
It's my pleasure. I am so obsessed with whole brain living and anatomy of choice and the four characters that drive our life. This is the book we are talking about today. And let me just start by saying, I read it, I listened to it, I sent a copy to my husband, I sent a copy to my assistant, and we are all exploring our four characters. This conversation today is going to be so spectacular, and I'm delighted to invite all of the listeners and the viewers to learn about what whole brain living is, hopefully dive deep into the four characters with you today so that they can be fully empowered, not only to go get your book, but also to explore their four characters. And when I started reading this, first of all, I know your story because I am the former executive producer of TEDx Lincoln Square. So I watch a few TED Talks in my life. And so we all know that part of your history. But I'd love for you to talk to us before we go into the book about how you came about writing this particular book and what was your exploration to find these four characters, Dr. Jill.
So I gave this TED Talk in 2008, as you mentioned, and it was the first TED Talk to ever go viral. So Ted and I kind of exploded into the world together. And by any measure, one would say that that TED Talk was a success. But it didn't do what I wanted it to do. What it did was it gave, in the sharing of my personal journey with being a neuroanatomist and having a stroke and rebuilding my brain and finding peace, really, and sharing that with everyone, people had a reverence toward me. But I didn't want a reverence toward me. I wanted people to have a reverence toward themselves. So for me, it was kind of a miss because all of a sudden I was skyrocketed into the world, but that wasn't the point. The point was we each can find our own deep inner peace. We all have this, we are a magnificent life force power. And so I literally racked my brain for about a decade trying to figure out how do I communicate this differently so that people can embody their own amazing selves as opposed to honoring mine. And so I was actually giving a presentation at a conference and I said, I love talking about the brain in this day and age. People love to hear about it. They know about the amygdala and the hippocampus. But the fact of the matter is, we have two amygdala, one in each hemisphere. And there was an audible gasp in the room. And I realized in that instant, that's the issue. People think we have one emotional system, two cognitive brains, because we've heard so much about the right hemisphere and the left hemisphere. But if they understand we have two emotional brains as well that are just as different, then all of a sudden emotions begin to make sense. And I realized it's the four modules of cells that result in in the four very distinctive characters that we all portray at a neuroanatomical level. And so from there, it was boom, I have to write this book. And that's whole brain living, the anatomy of choice, and the four characters that drive our life.
Well, I'm so grateful that you wrote it, and we're going to put links in the show notes so everybody can go out and buy it and get the audiobook immediately as well. I want to read from the preface a couple of things that you wrote here. You are the life force power of the universe, and your human brain is amazing, far beyond your wildest imagination. This book is your roadmap to peace, which really is just a thought away. That is such a powerful statement, and it's true, and it's elusive, and it's complicated, and it's challenging. And you have written this book in a way that makes it so clear. And it's if you do in this book what Dr. Jill is telling you to do and empowering you to do, you literally can have peace. And I want to, so thank you for that.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Let's talk about the four characters. And I've got my four characters named. I am very clear on who my primary character is. And I am super excited to have this conversation with my husband after he's done reading his book. But let's talk about the four characters and give our audience a little bit of breakdown of left, right, hard, soft, and the four characters.
Okay. So the very first of all, the two hemispheres they don't share any cell bodies. They're constantly communicating with one another through the corpus callosum, but the cell bodies are in a position in one hemisphere or the other. And when we think about how does a human brain evolve, the mammalian brain evolves by adding new tissue on top of old tried and true circuitry. So we have a sophisticated level of a brain stem at the level of our reptiles. And then the difference between a reptile and a mammal is the addition of new tissue on top. And that new tissue is the limbic system. It is our emotional tissue. And then the basic difference between us and other mammals is the addition of new tissue on top of that, the thinking tissue. So the human brain in each hemisphere, the right and the left, has emotion and thinking tissue. So the fundamental difference between these two sides of the brain is that the right hemisphere, it's right here, right now. Right here, right now. That's all it is. There is no past. There is no future. It's all what you see is what you have as your reality. That's it. So I don't remember, why did I pick these shoes to put on this morning? I just picked them, right? Because I don't have that information. So if the right hemisphere is right here, right now, the left hemisphere has a past and it has a future. And it also has me as an individual. I have an ego-centered group of cells that defines me, Jill Bolte Taylor. That's where I reside, in my left hemisphere. And a group of cells defines the boundaries of where do I begin and where do I end. So the left hemisphere has me, the individual, and I relate to the external world through that left hemisphere with language. So each of these different groups of cells in the brain, these modules of cells, have different skill sets. And if we just run that circuitry, they result in these four very specific characters.
Beautiful. And the left character one is our doer, our thinker, our to-do lister, our analytical.
So
Left.
think about that left hemisphere then as the thinking tissue is I call it character one. Now I just call them 1, 2, 3, and 4 because I want you to name your own, because I can give it a name, but if it doesn't mean anything to you, then how are you going to remember it, right? It's one more thing to memorize. But character one is the left thinking tissue. Character two is the left emotional tissue. So character one, left thinking. Character two, left emotion. Character three, right emotion. And character four is right thinking tissue. So your brain is constructed virtually identical to mine, but there's going to be, of course, variation in there. So the left thinking character one, exactly what you said. It's our type A personality. This part, it has language, it manages the external world, it manages it by organizing it and categorizing it. It's got the to-do list, it runs the to-do list, it gets it done, it's busy. We all have this part of ourselves. Some of us more than others. In some of us, it will be dominant. In others, it might be, oh, I hate that part of myself because it's going to work, right? So we're all going to be different in how much energy or time we spend in each of these characters, but we all have the anatomy for it. So I'm guessing your character one's pretty strong.
You are guessing correctly. Definitely.
And I know
I
that because you manage so many people. And because, management, a good strong character one likes to organize people, places, and things and time. So I noticed you were here even before I got here, and I was 5 minutes early. So, this is and we need this part. So getting to know your own character one, where does it hang out? How much time do you spend being this character? And how do the other people in your life interact with or respond to this part of who you are? And I encourage people to give it a name. So I know you've given yours a name. I'm dying to know, who is your character one?
My character one's name is Diva.
Well, that makes sense. She's the diva. She's running the show. It's her thing. She likes things a certain way. She wants things to be that way. She's going to control it all. And good for you.
Yes. And I really do. It's interesting because I recently adopted a beautiful rescue kitten from the shelter that I volunteer at, and she has really forced me to spend more time in character three in the morning. And it's been a really interesting shift for me and one that's welcomed. But I do say I'm struggling between character one and three, where I used to get so much more done in the morning.
I love it. So for your listeners, character three is going to be the right emotional tissue, which is playful. It's playful. It's creative. It's open. It's not on the clock. So yes, I'm glad that you've invited this little creature into your life because it will help balance you.
Yes, amazing. And then if we go back to left brain, character two, this is something that I find also very, very fascinating in terms of how we relate to others and their characters. Character two is fearful, judgmental, conditional, and trauma in, child with wounds, all of that, which we all have, and hopefully we all try to overcome or at least become conscious of. And when two character twos are in the room, there's zero there's zero peace,
Resolution.
zero resolution. So speak a little bit more about character two. And I love what you said in the book, where if you can move out of character two into your character four, that can be the source of peace for that particular relationship. Speak to character two a little bit, and then we'll move into character four, Dr. Jill.
So character two is the group of cells that is the emotion of the left hemisphere. So the left hemisphere is me, the ego. I'm an individual. I have a past and I have a future. So the emotions of my past and any trauma that I experienced in my past, any pride that I experienced or joys that I experienced in my past. But it's this collage of emotions that I have experienced from my past, as well as my craving for addiction. The tissue for craving is also in this character too. So it's going to be all of my fears from my anxiety of the present moment, my fears of the unknown of the future, and all my pain from the past. And this is such an important part of who we are that, billions upon billions of dollars have been spent in all forms of therapy in order to help this part of who we are. But as we talk about these four characters, please remember that this part of who we are gives us reflection. We have to pause because it hurts, it's painful. My relationship has a disconnect in it. And so that brings me pain because we are connecting individuals. And I can either just push that down and not manage that pain, or I can come out aggressively and assertively about that pain and make it worse, or I can actually reflect upon it with the other three parts of my brain that are actually healthy. So we are three quarters really healthy. And then this part of us is our insight to our pain so that we can grow. So we have to have this part of who we are so that we can learn and we can grow. So it's vitally important. And unfortunately, we exist in a society that wants to squash it down, push it down, or go in and just analyze, 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 rerunning that traumatic circuitry, which only strengthens it, as opposed to really recognizing this is an important character inside of me that just needs to be loved and nurtured and heard. And we each have these other three parts of who we are that have the capacity to do that. So getting to know all four characters and the relationship between them allows, let's say little character 2 gets triggered and now I'm angry and I'm just unhappy. Well, character 1, that organizer, that she's a fixer for me. She controls everything. So she can come in and say, okay, little character 2, I call mine Abby. Okay, little Abby, Helen, which is my character 1, hell on wheels, she gets it done. She comes in and she says, Abby, are we in an immediate danger or a threat? Do you need me to do something? And Abby's going, no, I'm just madder than hell. Nah, 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 nah. And then my right hemisphere can come in. So it can come in, and character 4, which is the right thinking tissue, which is just love because it's connected to all that is. And it's the ego, again, is in that left hemisphere. And in the right hemisphere, there's no ego. I'm just connected and big as the universe. And there's this universal love that I can then call on to come in and hold and nurture little Abby, character 2, so that she's being held. And then little character 3, which is the right emotional tissue, is very experiential. And it's like, okay, well, when you're ready to come out and play, I'm ready to come out and play with you. So using all four of these characters and having access to all four of these is like instead of having a brain or just having a hand where you're flopping your hand and you can push and pull with the hand, but we can differentiate the four fingers. And as soon as we have four fingers, now we have a manual dexterity in the world. And as we differentiate the four parts of our brain, we gain a cognitive and emotional dexterity that allows us to really be who and how we want to be in any moment.
I love that so much because you're giving us the roadmap, which is clearly stated in the beginning of the book, and the connection to character 4, which is divine consciousness and love, is something that you can tap into based on what you call the brain huddle. And we're going to talk about that in just a second. I do want to read from page 50, where you said, the loveliest part of losing my left brain emotional character 2, which we will talk about in the next chapter, was the complete absence of anger and fear. That must have been such a blissful, peaceful existence for you.
I mean, just imagine, just as you read it, I just felt this weight come off my shoulders and my whole body lifted. We have so much fear of the unknown, and we have so much anxiety about not being enough. And we're biological creatures. As biological creatures, we are the miracle of life. We are the miracle of life of 50 trillion beautiful cells that work together to manifest all these skill sets of us as a human being. So whether we are a single-celled organism or we are 50 trillion cells packaged together, we're the miracle of life. And life is here. We have it. And then when it's gone, it's gone. And just the phenomenon of being able to look in a mirror and be aware, I'm alive. I'm alive. And in the wonder of, oh my gosh, I'm alive and I'm this magnificent collection, all of a sudden this awe and reverence for my own being comes into existence. And it's like, wow. And I'm big as the universe. I'm energy and I'm vibrational matter. And oh my God. I mean, it's just for me, it's just an uplifting, oh my God. And to know that I have the cells in my right thinking tissue that connects me to all of that consciousness. It's like we are all that is. I mean, it's magnificent design.
It truly is magnificent. And to be able to put words to it, to teach others, and like you said at the beginning of this conversation, to be able to find the language so that people understand how to connect to their own brain consciousness is just so incredible. I would love for you to speak a little bit so that our listeners who have not read the book yet have insight into the hard versus the soft in relationship to the four characters. Can you speak to that for me, Dr. Jill?
Sure. So in the left hemisphere, we've got this character one thinking. And thinking is just thinking. That's all it is. It's like 1 + 1 = 2. There's no emotion there, right? It's just rational thought. And character two is all the emotion from my past as I push into my future. And that impetus of discomfort can charge. So think about the thinking tissue has been placed on top of the emotional tissue. So we really are feeling creatures who think. Okay, information streams in through our sensory systems. It heads first for the amygdala and the hippocampi and the cingulate gyrus. And those are all groups of cells making up the limbic emotional tissue. So information streams in, it goes into the emotional limbic tissue. And then from there, it gets passed up into thinking, unless I'm in alarm, alarm, alert, alert, fight or flight. And then it just moves into alert emergency situation. But once the amygdala then calms down, then the hippocampi turn on and I can think again. It's like the highway has been open for thinking. And the job of the thinking is to modulate and moderate and regulate what's going on in the tissue below it. So we can calm our own emotions by allowing ourselves to step out of just that routinizing circuitry. So we can stay fearful or angry for a very long time, but we do have higher cognition now that can allow us to step out of it, to observe it instead of engage with it, and modulate, re-regulate ourselves. So we have that capacity. So the driving force of that character two, though, drives our character one because now they're intricately connected. And think about leadership. So if I'm a strong character one and I'm being a leader, and oftentimes character ones are leaders because they're great at management, right? They're going to control everything and get everything going the way it's supposed to go. They can build systems and they can make sure everything flows. So if I'm a team leader and I'm just being a rational thinker, then I can become a part of the team because I am a part of the team. And if I'm a good leader, then my team is a group that I work with. I designate activities based on skill sets. You don't want to give a character one job to a character three who's going to be creative because they're going to struggle with it and do it very poorly. So a good manager is going to give character one tasks to the character ones, character three tasks to the character threes, character four tasks to the visionaries, and we're all gonna take care of our own character twos because my character two is my responsibility. It's not your responsibility. Somewhere along the line, we got the message that my character two, yeah, I have permission to spew it all over the workplace and that's okay. And it's like, no, you got your own little character four to go take a time out and take care of your little character two, and we'll be supportive and loving. We understand that. We all have that. And when we live life like that, we live a different life in relationship with one another. But anyway, so if I'm a soft character one, then I'm driven by the team as a part of the team. And a win for the team becomes a win for me as your leader and a win for you as my team. So the soft leader is the leader who becomes a part of the team. Now, the hard character one is driven by the fear of, oh my God, I'm going to fail. It really becomes the zero sum game of it's me or it's you. And so it's going to be me, and I'm the leader, and you're the team, and you're below me, and you're going to do what I tell you to do, whether you're good at it or you want to do it or not. And you're going to do it on my timetable, and I'm going to get behind you, and I'm going to prod you like cattle in order to get it done, in order to make the deadline. Right? These are two completely different kinds of leaders. So if I'm being a hard one, then if I have a win, I have a win. You don't have a win as my team, but it's my win. And if we lose, then I have a lose. And if I have a lose, I am even less happy with you, right? So, and the division becomes even harder. So as leaders, depending on what is driving my leadership, if I'm driven as a collective, we are a real team and I'm a part of the team, we will have a completely different experience than if I'm a hard one and I'm driving the team.
Amazing. It's so clear. And I know for those of you who are listening and watching, you have, I'm sure, experienced leaders who are hard character ones and how challenging it is to be
Yeah.
around them. And hard character ones can't inspire people to do things. It's just that they make people afraid, and that's why people do things. So I love that you're identifying the difference between hard and soft character one. I also think I would love to live in character 4. Can you share why it's not possible to always be in one of these characters, and that why this is called whole brain living?
Sure. So let's first hit a little bit about 3 and a little bit about 4.
Please.
So character 3 is going to be the right emotional tissue. And think about it. It's right here, right now. There's no past, there's no future. There's no right, there's no wrong, there's no good, there's no bad. All there is what is in the present moment. So, because all that other stuff is over there in the left hemisphere. And so if I'm just here and I'm sitting in a space and I have time, it stimulates my creativity because all possibility exists in the right hemisphere. So if you throw me into an art space, it's like, well, I don't know what this tool is for, but I'm going to use it for this, right? And I want to create this, and I'm going to take a little bit of that and a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and I'm not being a perfectionist because that's all over there in the left hemisphere. And I'm just going to play. And I'm going to create, and I'm going to innovate, and I'm going to become entrepreneurial, and it's going to be very exciting and interesting because I'm driven by this exhilarating experience of being alive. And it's like, oh wow, I mean just the I'm a primary 3/4, so I know these characters really well. And when I experienced the stroke, I lost characters 1 and 2. So in the absence of me, the individual, and all the right and wrong and good and bad and all the managerial skills and all the skill sets I definitely needed in order to become a prosperous, functioning human being. But in the absence of that, I was 5 years old again, essentially. And it was just like playtime. And it was like explore. But I had to, my exploration was, how do I use what I have here experientially to rebuild the skill sets of my left hemisphere? Because I knew, as great as it is to exist simply in the present moment, it's a whole different existence than normal. And I wanted to become normal enough that I could re-engage with humanity. So character 3 is this experiential. Now, in the experiential of character 3, I can get myself into trouble. And our jails are filled with a whole lot of character 3s because they weren't thinking about the consequences of their behavior. They were just acting in the present moment without thought. So it's a great part, and it's a potentially hazardous to society because character 3 doesn't define what it does based on the definition of social norm, right? Which is why it's character 3. It's just right here, right now, doing its thing. Character 4 is the right thinking tissue. And the right thinking tissue, then, it's not experiential. It simply is awareness. And in the awareness, there is no me, the individual. So if there's no me, the individual, then the whole world doesn't revolve around me. The whole world revolves around itself. And the pebble gets thrown at one side has an impact on the other side, because I am atoms and molecules in this concentrated collection of magnificent cells, but I am energy and I am matter in with thoughts and emotions capable of influencing the matter around me. So as I become a part of the consciousness of the whole, this is where divine love is. So I am wired at the level of my right thinking tissue to be connected to all that is. And in that space, that's where I find peace. Because in finding peace, I can experience myself as big as the universe without worrying about, oh, Jill Bolte Taylor, me, the ego, because it's not about her. It's about us as a collective whole of humanity. And how do I take the skills of all that I am and direct that towards helping all of us? Because when we come from the values of the collective whole, then we all rise. It's not a zero sum game of win lose. It's a we all connect and we all love each other. And when this part of our brain becomes more dominant as a social norm around the planet for humanity, we will be an absolutely more higher level of evolved human and than what we currently are, because we are so skewed to the circuitry of that left driven hemisphere of our characters one and the pain of our character two. So whole brain living is about being able to differentiate these four different parts of who we are, so that moment by moment we have the power to choose who and how we want to be. And right now I can be on here and I can chat with you and I can act like a character one, or I can be like playing with my dog underneath the table and I know I'm really being a three, but I'm acting like a character one. Or, I can move into the bigger picture of the vision of what is our capacity as humanity when we tap into our love for one another, which we're
Yeah.
wired for.
Right. That's why I'm so excited about this book, because I truly believe the more people understand their whole brain living and can identify their four characters and tap into character four more frequently, that's how we raise the collective consciousness and the vibration of humanity in the universe for love. And I truly believe that you are going to impact how humans show up in the world, and we can create more peace collectively.
Oh, I believe it too, and yet I'm not attached to whether we get there or not, because that would be character one.
Yep,
you know,
exactly.
we're gonna do what we're gonna do. I'm doing what my part is, having been a brain scientist, having lost my left hemisphere. Essentially, this stroke has brought into conscious awareness all four parts of our brain. And if you look even at Jungian psychology, I love Jungian psychology because his characters of the four primary archetypes actually land directly on top of these four characters. Of course they do. That's why they resonate with us so much. Except to Jung in his time, one, the ego is the conscious part of the brain. The other three parts of the brain are part of our unconscious. And it's like, no, they don't have to be. So imagine the leap in mankind that we can gain when people really recognize I can know everything going on inside of my brain. And because I know that and I can pick and choose, all of a sudden we go from a construct of do we have free will to of course we have free will, which is a completely different conversation, but it's huge right now what's going on. And it's like, well, yeah, thank you. I'm so glad you get it. I'm so glad that you find the value in it. And I love that you have given the book to your husband and to your assistant, because in any relationship, there's 8 of us, right? And you were
Yes.
very smart to give them information about their 4 characters so that you can now communicate with them on a completely different level.
Thank you for that. And that takes me to page 37, where you say, knowing our four characters and being able to recognize them in others enables us to interact more authentically in a whole brain way. We have the power to purposefully build healthy and healing relationships with others. And
Absolutely.
being able to be in conversation and to say, hey, wait a minute, I am in my character two right now. I need to take a brain huddle.
Yeah.
Let me do that. Let me breathe. So I want to just share with you, I
And
think
then
you'll find
and
this.
then and then I can come to you and I can say, "Honey, what do you need from me? What does your little two need from me? Do you need my character to come in and support you and do something for you? Can I make a phone call? Can I do something? Can I cook for you? Whatever. You might just need to vent." And it's like, "Do we need to vent? Let's just vent." And so misery loves miserable company. And so I can come in as my two and we can vent and then we can go have ice cream, because little character three is going to say, okay, well, when we're done with this, would you like to go paddleboard, or would you like to go for do something? And character four is just going to come in and say, oh, honey, I got you. I got you.
Yeah.
I'm always
Yeah.
here. I'm wrapped around you with love. I got you. What, just whatever, be whatever you need that to be. And then your little character two will go, well, that feels good. I'm feeling better already. And it's like, yeah, character three, let's go play. So the beauty of this material, I mean, my best friends, when they call me up and they'll say, Jill, how are you? And I'll say, well, Helen is good because she's crossed all this stuff off the list and I'm feeling very successful. And my character two, little Abby, she's good. She had a little ping of something, blah, blah, blah. And my little character three, oh, she's been stone carving and it's very exciting. I got this new rock in the stone zone and I'm so excited. And character four, it's just like, I love where I live and I love this new dog, and it's just a big love fest. And now all of a sudden, my friends know everything about me because they know all parts of me. It's not like, how are you? I'm fine. It's like, no, I have four characters, and how
Yeah.
are they and what are they doing? And that's just like when we can communicate with somebody that we care about at that level, or with anybody at that level. Now we're communicating and we're doing it precisely and in a meaningful way where I feel seen and heard. And then I don't need to see that person for another 6 months. And then we're back together again. How are you? How is your character one? Or and I do this. It's very rare that I get triggered, but once in a while, my little character two gets triggered. And I will call a friend and they'll say hello. And I will say, my little Abby needs some love. And instantly they go into character four love mode, and character one comes on and says, do I need to do anything? Are
Yes.
you okay? And it's like, I'm okay, I just need to vent. And it's like, and off we go. The level of in-depth communication, everything becomes real.
Yeah.
And I'm not ashamed of my character two. My character two is a beautiful, irrational, desperate part of who I am. And we all have that. And I'm not ashamed of her. I love her. And as I get to know her needs better, then I can learn that she can learn that she's actually okay. And her purpose in my life is so that I don't have to feel desperate. I don't have to feel sad. I don't have to feel all these things. I can feel them. I can think a thought. It stimulates an emotion. I run a physiological response to what I'm thinking and what I'm feeling. And within 90 seconds, it's coming, it's gone. And then it's like, okay. Well, just knowing that alone, my anxiety, if I start to feel it now, it's like, okay, I'm going to run my anxiety circuit or my sadness circuit or my
Right.
angry circuit. And I look at my watch and I give it 90 seconds, and then it goes and it runs its cycle. And I don't act out because that's a choice too. And it's out of my blood literally in less than 90 seconds. So I know everybody's saying, oh, I can stay angry for a whole lot longer than 90 seconds. And it's like, of course you can, but pay attention. You're rethinking the thoughts, re-stimulating the emotional circuit, rerunning the physiological response in your body. And I can think of somebody from 20 years ago, and every time I think of them, boom, I'm going to run my circuit again, because I didn't do my work about that person. And it's okay.
Right.
We find our way.
Right. When you give us this roadmap, it allows us to move so fluidly between all of the characters, which does create that peace and empowerment. And I also share with you and the listeners, I went through all of my characters this morning in preparation for this podcast interview with you. And that was character one, making sure everything was working properly and that I had everything organized. And then, checking in with character two. Is there any fear coming up? No, character two is pretty quiet today. But I did reach out to character three to create my brain huddle artwork in service of this call. And then, of course, my intention setting was my character four. And it was such a whole brain experience to prepare for you. And I want to thank you for that. You do talk about the brain huddle, and I would love for you to break that down for our listeners and our audience so that we know we can take action when, let's say, character two is primary in that
Right.
moment. So let's talk about the brain huddle and the acronym that you created.
Perfect. So the thing about brain cells is that every thought we experience, every emotion we experience, every physiological response, these are all cells. And the more we run a cell in a circuit, the stronger that circuit becomes. So it eventually becomes habitual and runs automatically on its own. So that's why it's important to really think about the kinds of thoughts that I'm thinking, because I can really bring myself down into my sadness or into my grief or into my pain if I continue to affirm essentially these emotions that I really don't want to affirm. I want to learn from, and I think that that's a key for emotions. We want emotions to be information, not a lifestyle. And if we turn it into a worrisome lifestyle, then we're just caught in these cell circuits. So as it's so important. Okay. Once we know our four characters and we can clearly define our own four characters, then bringing them into conversation is important, because I need to negotiate. We're constantly negotiating any conflict, emotional conflict or cognitive conflict that we have. It's because our different characters, primarily our two hemispheres, have different values. And if the right hemisphere values us as a nurturing, supportive, loving source, and the left hemisphere is all about me and mine, and I want more for me and mine, then right away we're going to have a division. So let's say, for example, I'm having a conflict. I've been offered a new job. It's going to be a lot more left brain money. It's going to be a lot more left brain status. I'm going to have a bigger house. I'm going to have bigger this, bigger that. Oh, more, more, more. Left hemisphere loves more. But my kids are happy in school. They're happy where they are. They've been here for a dozen years. They know their friends. They are happy. And it's like, if I move, now I'm going to take these kids up out. And what is my priority? Well, this is, to my right brain, it wants my kids to be happy. And my left brain is saying, well, I want more for my kids. And
Hmm.
so who's going to win in this conflict? Well, let's have a brain huddle. So the brain huddle, B stands for breath. And everything is about breath, right? Meditation is about breath because it brings you to the present moment. Yoga is about breath. It brings you to the present moment. Prayer and mantra are all about breath because they bring you to the present moment. So you focus on your breath. It's like a train running down the track of the present moment. We can change it in the present moment. So we don't breathe in the past. We don't breathe in the future. We breathe right here and now. So I can go more deeply. I can increase the amplitude. I can change the frequency. I can mess with my breath. So breath, focus on your breath. R, these are all going to spell brain, of course. R stands for recognize. Who called the brain huddle? Did character one call the brain huddle? Did little character two in my pain call the brain huddle? Rarely wants to. This is why it's so important that we practice, because little character two wants to hold on to their pain. right? We all know this. I'm mad. I'm madder than hell. I'm not going to give up don't be nice to me. I'm not ready yet. So character 2 needs to practice giving, calling a brain huddle. Character 3 is out playing, being experiential. Yeah, let's have a huddle. Yeah, it's a great time to have a huddle. Everybody good? And everybody's good. And it's really important that when these other characters are calling the huddle, notice that the little character 2 is probably okay. And it's important to recognize how often our little character 2 is okay. Because it's not just all horrible. It's like, oh, no, in this moment, little character 2, are you okay? Yeah, I'm okay. I'm okay. Good. Character 3, good. Character 4 is pretty much always good. But it's
Yeah.
really good to check in and feel that. You need to feel these characters. So B, breath. Bring your mind to the present moment. R, recognize who called the huddle, just so that we're practicing all of them. Who called the huddle? A, appreciate it. Doesn't really matter who called the huddle. There's 4 of us. Appreciate there's always 4 of us. So if character 1 calls the huddle, there's 3 more. Character 2 calls the huddle. We're all here. We are a team. The team comes together in the huddle saying, in this moment, we're all right here, right now. So A, appreciate. There's always 4 of us. Then I, inquire. Okay, who do we want to be in this moment? Who do we want to be? Who do we want to be? So let's say it was Helen who called the huddle. And so my character 1, so she's up in the office, and it's every hour on the hour I'm calling a huddle, because that's how character 1 would do. And so it's like character 1 calls the huddle, and character 3 is going, we had an agreement that you would go like to the office for 2 hours, and then like we'd take the dog for a walk, and the dog really wants to go for a walk, so can we go for a walk? And it's like, okay, inquire, who do we need to be? Okay, Helen says, you're right, we agreed, negotiation, now I'm going to go play with a kitty, right? So inquire, and then N stands for navigate, because life is moment by moment by moment unfolding of time. So navigate moment by moment by moment. And so let's say you're being your character 1, and you're in the office and you're busy, and then you call a brain huddle because it's on the hour and you're practicing. And it's like your little character 3 is going, oh, yeah, that little kitty, she wants some love. So I'm going to take a break and I'm going to do that. And so now I'm playing with the kitty, but then the phone rings, right? Well, then I have to navigate. It's like, sorry, kitty, I got to go take the call. So we're navigating moment by moment. But when you gain this level of awareness of who is behaving at what time to serve your life, you gain the power to, at any moment, move into your character 4, because character 4 is always there, and character 4 is solid, because character 4 is your connection to the universe. So you are as big as the universe. We are the life force power of these beautiful 50 trillion molecular geniuses. Oh my gosh, connected to all that is. And then I have a tiny little group of cells about the size of a peanut that says, oh, and by the way, I'm Bolte Taylor, and this is where I begin and end, and I'm separate from that. So I can have a functional consciousness in the external world, so I can bring all the skills of all 4 of my parts into the world as best I can. And then if I do that under the value structure of that character 4, what am I going to do? I'm going to talk with you because you called me up and asked me if I'd talk to you, because you have a platform where you're trying to help people do whatever it is your specialty is. And of course, I'm going to say, yes, thank you for inviting me in to share.
Well, thank you. And just to refer, breathe, recognize, appreciate, inquire, navigate. That spells brain. And you have brought so much value to this podcast today, Dr. Jill. It's truly an honor. And I want to just finish up by saying you also talk about having gratitude and love for all 4 characters. And you invite us to love and thank all of our 4 characters as well. Why is that so important?
Oh, because it's who I am. When you think about this design, whether you believe there's a design that was created or the design just biologically evolved into whatever it is, this is what we are as humanity. And I truly believe that the evolution of us as a species is whole brain living. It's creating communication between that which the emotions in each hemisphere with the thinking in each hemisphere, get those streamlined. The thinking to thinking tissue, get that streamlined. The emotion to emotion, get that streamlined. And then I become a whole human. And we are as a species, we're in the process of evolving and developing across time. And I truly believe that bringing all parts of our brain into conscious understanding and communication within ourselves, once we gain this gift to ourselves, it's a gift we give to everyone that we interact with because we do it consciously.
Right. We do it consciously. It's been such a privilege to spend time with your character one, your character three, when you brought the brain and showed us the hemispheres. And then, of course, I can feel your beautiful consciousness and your character four coming through this lens. So it's been such an honor. Thank you so much for being a featured guest today. How can our listeners get in touch with you, Dr. Jill?
drjilltaylor.com. I'm easy to find. And, to me, if you're curious at all, little character three, about who you are and how you can live a life on purpose that is peaceful and fulfilling and loving, and you want to interact with other people in peaceful ways, whole brain living. I feel very blessed that I had this stroke. I lost half my mind. I had this experience. I rebuilt my brain, and here we are. So thank you.
You're
Thank you for sharing it.
You're so welcome. We'll put the link in the show notes, but just so you know, Whole Brain Living, The Anatomy of Choice, and the Four Characters That Drive Our Life. It's an amazing read. It's also an amazing audiobook. Get both because your brain needs to learn in different ways. Everybody, thank you so much for dropping in with us today and for spending time. If you love this conversation, please let us know. Hit me up on Instagram. If you're watching this on YouTube, please subscribe, hit the notification bell so you don't miss any of our latest episodes. And remember, everybody, your voice matters. Thank you so much, everybody. Mwah. Big love.